So the new set of limited banners is finally coming to the global server, and it's going to start with this new made gunner girl, Annabella. So in this video, let's check her out and let's see what she can bring to the table. From her mechanics, advancements, team comps, recommendations, and more. In a separate video coming soon, we're also going to focus on the details of the gameplay, skill rotation, and builds for flame teams. For now, let's give more focus on Annabella first. And by the way, in this channel, we study and test drive new weapons. If you find this type of content helpful, a quick like and subscribe is highly appreciated. And just a quick disclaimer, this is in the global test server, meaning there might be inconsistencies here and it is still subject to change. Also, what I'm about to share is only based on my own knowledge and experience using this weapon. But anyway, I hope you will still find it useful. So let's begin. So Annabella's Clover Cross has flame resonance as well. It has 12.5 shatter, but the charge rate is a bit low at 9.0. However, like Ruby, she is also an effective charge unit, and I'll show you more about this later in this video. She also has a passive skill called Tranquil Heart, which increases critical rate by 3.5% for 15 seconds, and it can stack up to 3 times upon using skills, Discharge, Charge Attack, and Dodge Attack. It also converts half of the critical rate beyond 100% into critical damage. So for example, if you have 110.5% critical rate, you will get 5.25% critical damage, which is already the highest achievable for A0. It is still bugged in the test server right now, so I haven't got the chance to try it yet. But what I did, I increased my crit rate with the same value at 3 stacks to at least get a feel of how it would perform, kinda just for testing purposes. Anyway, for the normal attacks, the only important moveset here is the cross snipe. You can charge it up to 3 times, and if it crits or hits a burn target, you will gain 300 charge points. Wow, although it has 15 seconds cooldown, the charge rate is still insane. After firing it, you're also gonna get 30% movement speed increase for 3 seconds. Anyway, what's good about this weapon really is its dodge attack called Twilight Arc. With this, you won't need to manually charge the cross snipe anymore. You just need to use a dodge attack and the bullet will automatically become a fully charged cross snipe. And here's the interesting part. The bullet can also be loaded up using her skill. So when you use her skill Ember Mag, you can choose between 2 bullets or bombs to load into your cross snipe. One red and one white. Red is Ruthless Bomb for burn, and white is Deceitful Bomb or a gas that slows enemies and explodes. To make it simple, let's just call it burn and gas. So the burn has a pretty decent impact damage at 188.6% and a bit of tiny damage. But what's good about this is that it burns the enemies for 75% of the attack for 13 seconds. And once you hit a burning enemy, you will get a 20% burn damage increase buff for 20 seconds. So just in case you're curious, it also increases burn from other sources like from Cobalt B and not just from Annabella's weapon. And this works very well with Ruby because if you remember, Ruby has an ignite mechanic on burning units with her skill and discharge. So for example, here's what you can do: burning bullet, dodge attack, another dodge to increase the burning damage, and bam. So on the other hand, the gas bomb slows enemies in the area for 7 seconds. However, if you use a dodge attack, it will explode and would deal huge amounts of damage. The initial impact for the bullet is 294.1%, then followed up by an explosion with 316.2% damage. Honestly, this feels like a discharge on the dodge attack. It also reduces the enemy's flame resistance for 10 seconds and also reduces the cooldown of other weapons by 0.7 seconds upon hitting an enemy. So the gas belt is more like a greedy hard carry DPS role for flame comps. It also works well with her trait, which gives additional 15% damage when using her weapon, which can go up to 2 stacks for a total of 30%. I also noticed that the trait increases other off-field damage like Lynn's Blooms. Another nice addition to Annabella's skill is that it increases the charging speed of the cross snipe, and you will also get immunity to control. Every second dodge attack also refills a dodge counter, which you can use up to 4 times for every 8 bullet magazine you can activate from using its skill. In turn, this makes the dodge attack extremely spammable even without the matrices. And as for the discharge, it also has a huge damage at 765.4% and also has a 1.5 second iframe. However, it does seem like the animation is very slow. Anyway, let's go to the advancements for now. At A1, every 2 cross snipes that hit will summon an optical space for 12 seconds. Monsters who go out of this space will be slowed by 80% for 2.5 seconds. It's a pretty nice crowd control skill to safely kite the enemies, and you can activate this manually and of course using dodge attacks. It also has a great synergy with Ruby because the cube gets trapped inside and bounces within the optical space, so it won't go elsewhere like it always does, and there is more chance for it to proc Ruby's skill and ignite. I'm not sure about this, but there also seems to be a mistranslation here that is yet to be confirmed. According to some people, Optical Space adds additional burn damage or ticks. However, upon testing it, it doesn't seem like the case. I noticed that there can only be one Optical Space at a time when using regular cross knife. However, when using the bullets from the skill, it can summon up to 3 Optical Spaces, which makes it even better for crowd control. So the question is this really the intended effect? I'm honestly not sure either, so let's just wait for the official release. But honestly, I feel like this does not increase the burn ticks or damage because that would make it seem very OP if that is the case. And now at A3, every critical hit of your cross knife will regenerate 50% of the damage dealt, and you can gain up to 10% of your max HP at a time. It also gives 50 weapon charge, unlocking Annabella's insane charging potential. This also pretty much solves the sustained issues of flame comps in the past. Now with A3 Annabella, there seems to be a hope for better survivability. Moreover, A3 also increases the passive effect of Tranquil Heart from 3.5% critical rate to 6% per stack, and there will be a maximum of 9% critical damage conversion. And for A5, the burn damage buff of the burn bullet will become 30% instead of 20%, and for the gas bomb, it will ignore 30% flame resistance. I'm also not sure how useful it is in the current contents. However, upon testing A4 versus A5 in the Cactus, I did not notice much difference. But when I tested it in the Rudolph raid, there was a noticeable damage increase from around 50k to consistent 60k and above damage. But again, I'm not sure if this was just due to weapon's additional attack, or maybe it depends on each monster's fire resistance. So yeah, I guess we just need to wait for the mathematicians and data miners to confirm its effectiveness. And finally, for A6, it increases cross knife's damage by 12%. This may actually be worth it for gas build since it will mostly have the time on field and will continuously launch dodge attacks. However, for burn build, I feel like it may not be worth it, especially for those with limited resources. Overall, A5 and A6 just adds additional damage output. A pretty decent addition, I would say, but what's good about this weapon is that it is F2P and low spender friendly, in a sense that it already unlocks the special mechanics and game-changing abilities even at lower advancements, unlike weapons like Cobalt B, which is honestly almost like garbage if it's not at least A6. But maybe now she can have some redemption arc with a guaranteed source of burn with Annabella. And now finally, for the matrices, the 2-piece set increases final damage and crit rate for a duration when attacking using a flame weapon. With 4-piece, final damage is increased and it activates a crit damage increase buff for 25 seconds. It also mentions a special ability in the tooltip wherein you gain a dodge attack charge for every 3 cross knives that would hit. However, it's not in the main description, so we still don't know which effect will be the final one when it gets released. Also, please do take note that these matrices do not work in the background, especially the final damage increase of the 4-piece set. But I think it's still pretty good because the buff duration lasts for a long time anyway. So what are the ideal comps for Annabella? Firstly, for the burn-oriented compositions, Ruby, Annabella, and Lynn combination is probably one of the best out there. Lynn will be the off-field DPS and buffer, Annabella will be a burner and a buffer, and Ruby will be the main source of damage. This setup takes advantage of Ruby's ignite mechanics from her skill and discharge, as well as the continuous bouncing of the cube inside the optical space. And so even though there is an internal cooldown, it will still be much better than the cube flying around everywhere. So here's how it works. Lynn field, burning bullet a couple of times, and straight into a Ruby discharge or skill. Cobalt B in a burn comp is also one of the lineups I'm really liking right now. However, it seems like it might not be as effective if it's not maxed out. It will still be the same for this. Lynn field, burn and buff of Annabella, then straight into a Cobalt barrage and dodge attack burn. And if you add a 4-piece Cobalt matrix, oh my goodness guys. And to be honest, in my initial testing, I actually like this lineup more in mob floors and Ruby on single targets like boss fights. But since we are still in the early stage of testing, please take it with a grain of salt. So probably the next option will be to use King for his burn from the shatter and his buffs. And if you don't have Lynn, the concept is still gonna be the same. It would be best to fill it in with a weapon that has a decent off-field contribution. It can be a Cobalt for shatter and burn, it can be a King for shatter and buff, or maybe 0 for buff and team-oriented gameplay. Now for the gas build, it is most likely the Clover Cross that's gonna do most of the work. And it's almost the same as the burn build. The only difference is that it won't rely too much on enabling the burning mechanics, meaning it will be more greedy with the rotation and most of the damage will go to the Clover Cross. So here you can just add units according to your needs. It could be a shatter, a buffer, or whoever you think would be useful to your team and party. Now the question is, which one is stronger? Burn comp or gas comp? Unfortunately, I can't give a straight answer because we all have different individual setups, and most likely they will perform differently across various game contents. But don't worry, because I'm going to upload another video going into the details of the gameplay, composition, skill rotation, and builds for F2Ps and whales to just kinda give you guys a general idea of what to do. Now for my initial review of this weapon, overall for me, there will be 2 roles for Annabella in this current patch. First, she can be a flame team burning enabler, or a hyper greedy ultra DPS with the gas build, or maybe both. This weapon is also pretty solid for F2Ps and low spenders because it won't need as much investment to enjoy the gameplay. In fact, at A0, the core mechanics are already there. You just have to find the right partners for the team. A1 and A3 give some nice abilities, but most of them are just QOL improvement. A5 and A6, it only increases the damage output, which is kinda nice for whaling purposes. Hoping that all the succeeding banners of Tower Fantasy would be like this so that players can enjoy them nicely, especially those who just want to try and enjoy different elements without fully committing to them. So that will be it for this video. Again, take note that this is just the test server and this is only my initial take on Annabella, and there might be changes soon as we dive deeper into it. But I'll let you know if something comes up. Thanks for watching and see you soon.